cue the big picture question.
Who saves us from our sin? Only Jesus saves us from our sin.
Welcome back to the Easter series. I hope you had a great Easter and celebrated that Jesus is alive with your family. Hey, when I was a kid, sometimes my parents would send me to get something. Have you ever been sent to get something? Adults are always telling kids, go get the something. Sometimes I had to go to my dad's toolbox. Sometimes it was in my mom's sewing stuff. Sometimes it was in a closet. Sometimes it was in a shed out back. And I would get there and I'd look around and I couldn't find it. And I'd get frustrated. And I'd go back to my parents and I would say, I don't see it. And they'd get a little annoyed. They'd walk back with me and instantaneously they would pick it up. Has anything like that ever happened to you? Some people have a good eye for finding things, picking things out. Some people don't. Let's see what type of eye you have right now.
Do you see a frog? Or do you see a horse? Can you find the face that's not like the others? There it is. Do you see anybody in this picture? Do you see them now?
The key passage.
Romans 10:9. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Romans 10:9.
How did you do in our game? Did you see everything or did anything stay hidden to you? In our Bible story today, Jesus had risen from the dead and he appeared to two disciples and he helped them see what was hidden to them.
On the day that Jesus rose from the dead, two of Jesus' disciples were walking to a village called Emmaus. The two disciples were talking about everything that had happened. As they talked, Jesus came and began to walk with them, but the disciples did not recognize him. Jesus asked the disciples, "What are you talking about?" The disciples stopped walking. They looked sad. One of the disciples, Cleopas, answered, "Are you the only one in Jerusalem who hasn't heard what happened?" "What happened?" Jesus asked. So they told him. Jesus of Nazareth was a prophet. He was powerful when he acted and spoke before God and all the people. The religious leaders handed Jesus over to be sentenced to death, and they nailed him to a cross. We had hoped he was the one who would set Israel free. Besides, it's the third day since these things happened. Early this morning, some women went to the tomb and did not find Jesus' body. They saw angels who said that Jesus is alive. Some of our friends went to the tomb and they too saw that the tomb was empty. Jesus said, "You are foolish to not believe what the prophet said. Isn't this what had to happen to the Messiah?" Then, beginning with Moses and the prophets, Jesus explained to them what all the scriptures said about him. Jesus and the two disciples arrived at Emmaus, and they asked Jesus to stay with them. So Jesus joined them at the dinner table. He took the bread, thanked God for it, and broke it into pieces. Then he gave the pieces to the disciples. Right away, the men recognized Jesus, but Jesus immediately disappeared from their sight. The two disciples thought about their walk to Emmaus. They said, "When Jesus talked to us on the road and explained the scriptures, didn't our hearts feel like they were on fire?" The disciples immediately left Emmaus and went back to Jerusalem. They found Jesus' 11 disciples and others who gathered with them. They told them what had happened. They said, "Simon saw Jesus too. Jesus is alive." The whole Bible is about Jesus. When Adam and Eve sinned, God began working out his plan to send Jesus to rescue people from sin. All of the Old Testament points forward to Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, the time when Jesus would bring God's promised salvation for sinners.
Jesus showed the Emmaus disciples what was hidden to them. First, he showed them what was hidden to them in the scriptures. He taught them that the whole Bible pointed to him. Then he showed them what was hidden to their eyes. He revealed himself to them. After that, they did something really interesting. They took a U-turn. They had gone to Emmaus because they were scared. But when they found out what they had heard was true, when they understood who Jesus was, they turned around. They took a U-turn. They went back to Jerusalem. Following Jesus requires U-turns. The first U-turn is asking him to be your Savior. When you turn from depending on yourself and being oriented towards sin to turning towards Jesus and asking him to save you. There is no other way. But then after he comes to live inside of you, he keeps changing you. There's a fancy word called sanctification, as Jesus remakes you part by part. And notice what they did when they got to Jerusalem. They told other people. Following Jesus means telling others. Have you taken that first turn? Have you trusted Jesus as your Savior? If you have trusted Jesus as your Savior, are you growing in him? Are you putting those habits in front of yourself where God changes you by being in his word and having time with him? And are you telling others? Where are you on the road with Jesus? Talk about it with your parents. There's some slides at the end of this video to help you. Just hit pause.